Hey friend, Graham here from recordingrevolution.com, and welcome back to our How to Record a Song from Scratch mini-series. We have already looked at using budget equipment, using a $99 audio interface, the Focusrite Scarlett Solo. I'm going to be using a $99 microphone later on in this video, and we're using a free piece of software to record into called Pro Tools First. And so far we have set up the session. We've gotten our drum loops in place and customized for our song. And in the last video, I recorded some of the bass lines. So today we're gonna look at guitar. We're gonna record some electric guitar and some acoustic guitar into our session so we can start filling out the song. Now, when it comes to recording electric guitar, you can obviously plug into your favorite amp, grab whatever microphone you have, and mic up that amp or cabinet. But a lot of us these days are recording through virtual amps, for cost sake and also for noise sake. If you record in a home studio or a bedroom studio, or you live in an apartment, or you have kids and they're sleeping, you can't really crank up your guitar amp late at night. And a lot of times late at night is the only time we have available to us if we're working during the day or going to school. So virtual amps kind of solve that problem, and I want to address those today because it's a pretty common way people are working these days. Now, what I'm going to do in my Pro Tools session is create a brand new track. Again, we're going to use a mono audio track. And then I'm going to double click and call this guitar. I'm going to set the input to the second input on my audio interface. I'm going to plug in my electric guitar to input 2 on my audio interface, and also make sure that it's set to instrument level and not line level because we're recording an instrument. Then I'm going to record, enable my track, and see if I'm getting any signal. Now, something really important when recording anything, especially guitars direct, is to get the level right. We want to make sure that we don't turn up the gain knob or the volume knob on my interface too much, where I'm getting too much guitar signal into my software. It'll overload or clip. So we want to make sure that we're looking at a signal that's 50 to 75% of the way up the meter. That's plenty of signal. You don't need any more than that. Now, what I'm going to do in Pro Tools first is open up a free amp simulator that came with my Focusrite interface. It's called 11 Lite. And I'm going to find a preset that I know sounds pretty good. And fortunately for us, there's a gate built in here. We can kill some of that hum. Now, what we want to do when you use a virtual amp is make sure that we aren't overloading the signal now by running it through an amp. So we want to look at our meter again, and when we play through the amp, make sure that it's still not too loud. If it were too loud, we could come up here to the output and pull it down. Now, this is really important when recording direct guitars. I don't want you to miss this. There are basically 2 times you need to check the gain or the level of the signal before you record. The first is where we just plugged in direct without any amp on it, and just make sure that that dry, DI'd signal is 50 to 75% of the way up the meter. That's the actual signal going into your interface. The second time is what we did just there, where we put the amp on, found a setting, and made sure that now going through the plug-in, we're not overloading the software on that end. So you make sure that you have a good signal, which is not too loud, going in the front end and after the virtual amp. Now, what I'm going to do is get to the beginning of my song, press record, and play along with my drum loops and bass guitar and see if we can get this first guitar part down. So I like to play through the whole song as best as I can, or at least work in really, really big chunks. Again, I mentioned this in the bass video, but if you make a mistake, make a flub, you can always edit that later or take a better performance and copy it over. So I don't like to stop myself. I just like to play through the song. You get a more natural performance that way. Now, here's a little trick when recording electric guitars, especially if it's the main riff, the main part. I'm a big fan of doubling the guitar parts because then you can pan one left, pan one right, and have a very massive wide sound. But a little tip here is don't just play it a second time with the exact same settings. Record it with a different but complementary guitar sound. This could be a different guitar. This could be a different pickup on your guitar, or you can change up the amp setting in your virtual amp and get a different sound. So what I'm going to do is create a second track. Call it Guitar 2. Set that to the similar input. Record enable that. Copy the amp over to that track. And now what I want to do is either change the amp entirely, or one thing I could do here is change the cabinet from a 412 greenback to a classic 30. Even just changing the cabinet will make a difference in tone. Versus this. I'm going to pan the first guitar all the way to the left, turn it down just a little bit. And now that we have a complementary guitar tone, I'm going to play through the song one more time, and then we'll be able to pan the two left and right and have a fuller, wider sound, not only because they're doubled, but because they are different sounding tones. So the EQ, everything about the tone is different. Your ears perceive them better, which gives you the illusion of more width. Pan this to the hard right, pull it down in volume also. Take a listen to what this sounds like. So now I want to record some acoustic guitar in my hook chorus of the song to overlay on top of the electrics. I think it'll add a nice texture piece. Now with acoustic, you could plug it in if you have an acoustic electric guitar like I have, but it never will sound as good as actually putting a microphone in front of it, because the way we're used to hearing acoustic guitar is the whole body resonating and pushing air outward. So I recommend you mic up your acoustic guitars. Today I have a Behringer B1. This is the first microphone I ever bought for my home studio over 15 years ago. It's a $99 microphone and it still does the job. It is a large diaphragm condenser microphone. Now to get this set up, I just need to plug in an XLR cable. This is a traditional microphone cable. It has 3 prongs. Plug that into the microphone and then plug the other end into the channel 1 of my Focusrite audio interface. This is the actual microphone preamp channel. And now it's connected. Now since it's a condenser microphone, it requires something called phantom power. 48 volts of actual power that needs to come from the preamp. Whereas a dynamic microphone, a typical stage microphone that you might hold in your hand, doesn't need any additional power. These condenser microphones do. So double check to make sure what type of microphone you have. If it is a condenser, then you'll need to press the 48 volts of phantom power button on the front of the interface. Now back in Pro Tools, first I'll create a new track, another mono audio track, again mono because this is a mono source. I give it a name. Make sure it's set to input 1 now of my interface because that's where it's plugged in. Record enable and make sure I'm getting signal. Now a little tip on mic placement. There's a lot of ways to mic up an acoustic guitar. My favorite is right in front of the sound hole, but angled at the 12th fret. So it's facing the 12th fret, but it is positioned directly in front of the sound hole. And the final piece is it's at least 1 foot away. Many people make the mistake of putting their microphone far too close to the acoustic guitar. You get a really boomy, overloading sound. It's not really natural. We're not used to hearing acoustic guitars with our ears right up on the sound hole. We're used to hearing them a few feet away. So start with at least a foot away. Sometimes get further. It'll get more of the entire body of the guitar and sound more natural. So now that I've got this mic'd up, plugged in, track created in Pro Tools first, 48 volts of phantom power setup, and my gain set up where I'm not getting too hot of a signal, I think it's time to record some acoustic in the chorus of this song. There it is, recording a little bit of acoustic guitar with a simple $99 large diaphragm condenser mic in my session. Now in the next video, we're gonna look at some virtual instruments, some keys, some other instruments that we can create inside of our software using a little keyboard controller or even just banging in some notes with a mouse. Before you go, however, I wanna give you a gift. It's called my 6 Steps to a Radio-Worthy Song Guide. This is a simple PDF that you should totally download right now. This walks you through an entire step-by-step framework for how to write, arrange, produce, record, release songs so that they sound like they could be played on the radio. They're sounding that good. It's absolutely free. It's like a companion guide to go along with these videos. And you can download it at radioreadyguide.com. Put the link here and in the description box. Download it, read through it quickly. I think it'll walk you through everything you need to know, a lot of tips and tricks on how to produce really, really good songs in the home studio. And again, free gift to you, just my way to help you get the most out of these videos. I think it will really pair perfectly with what we're learning. Because if you're working in your home studio and you've got a cool song idea, you don't want to get stuck by having a chaotic process. I like to have a nice, linear, step-by-step plan so I know what to do first, what to do second, what to do third, so that I will get to my final destination, aka a great sounding song that I can release with the world. And that's what this 6-step guide will do, walk you through the 6 steps that I follow every time I make music in my home studio. So go download it right now at radioreadyguide.com. Enjoy. I'll see you on the next video.